Well, Jimmy, I want to welcome you to come out today to give us the information on this appraiser change that's coming. I know as realtors, there we go. I saw it change. We have these changes coming up. We've had our forms changes. We've had all kinds of changes this year in 26, and we know this appraiser form, it's all confusing to everyone around, us included. So you're gonna explain to us what the changes are, what it means to you, and what it's gonna mean to us, correct?
I will, I'll try.
Okay.
The form is right now we use what's the 2.5 form. That is an actual form where we literally just go in there, check the boxes and do all that, pull the comparable sales. The new system is called the UAD 3.6. And it's I guess the federal government's idea of getting AI involved in the appraisal industry. It's an interactive form. It's a software. It's not a form. So for example, if you look at the old form, it's got purchase, refinance, and other boxes on it. And we just check them and just keep going.
So when we have our buyer and they have a mortgage, we don't call, the mortgage doesn't call, like the actual lender. So what happens, you're called by the lender, but it's not our particular lender, correct? Just want to make sure we have the process down, because our buyers do ask us that question.
That's truthfully, I don't know that. The way our side of things works is when y'all make an offer on the house and your client goes to whatever bank, then that bank engages us.
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay.
They don't give us anything other than that. It's always kind of ironic to me because we've always been supposed to be an uninterested third party.
Right, correct? And that's what
and then they give us the contract. Well, as soon as we see what the price point is, we're all of a sudden interested, aren't we? But could you imagine the chaos that would come if they just said, we need you to go appraise his house? We had no idea that there's a contract involved, but it's a sale.
Right.
So then all of a sudden you got, values going every direction. You might be low, might be high, but so that's that's always something I've always thought was funny. But no, the new form is going to be interactive. So if I go in there and check purchase, then all the purchase data that I need to have, points to fill out, populate in the report. But if I click refi, all that'll disappear. So that's the only real thing that's going to be different. From what I've gathered, I haven't gotten really in a deep dive into it yet, that it's going to be a lot more data to put in the report. So from y'all's end, when you list houses, the more data you can put in your multiple listings, the better it'll be for us. And it could be something as simple as, let's say the sales in Meadow Lakes 2. Yeah, so instead of just writing Meadow Lakes 2, it's a upper echelon neighborhood in Rock Hill on the southwestern side of town. You're now going to have to put Meadow Lakes 2 as a neighborhood that was built by so-and-so in this year. It took this many years to develop it out. It's got X number of houses on it. It's got X number of vacant lots. It's got 2 ponds, and all this stuff. So it's going to be a lot more, just to me, unnecessary data that they want.
Okay.
So that's why it's going to take longer. It could be, instead of being 6 pages, it could be 40.
So that you're going to have to input.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. So that's the big thing with that. It is the new form. That's really the only thing that's going to change it. And like I said, once we get into it some, we've done it a few dozen times, I think. From everything I've talked to, they said it's going to be easier to do. We'll see.
Okay.
What's some other questions you got?
So and I've had other agents call me and ask, just agent to agent, when we're doing CMAs, when we're doing things on the MLS, a big question is floor plans. if I have an appraiser floor plan, I will use that. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay,
I don't see why it's not if you engage us to draw it for you, sure.
okay. Tilted ceilings, that is such a big issue. Some appraisers don't agree that it is actual room, these square feet, this square feet.
Tilted ceilings?
What do we go on?
I'm not sure. I think so.
I hear it in there. Um, the rule that we're taught is head high.
I'm 5'2".
So that varies from person to person, sure. So, and it doesn't really give you a, say somebody's 5'7" or whatever, but what I've always done is, like in a bonus room
Yeah,
upstairs.
usually the frogs are
You got it through, so you walk till you hit your heel on the ceiling edge. That's where you stop.
Okay.
So you might have 3 or 4 feet over here that's heated and cold, but from the industry standard.
So that's where you should measure, okay.
And that's the beauty of our industry, is that's where litigation comes from. Somebody thinks their house is a certain size and you say it's different, all of a sudden.
Because, so many, when you have them come in and measure for you, they'll use the, what do they call it, the lasers. So,
The only, we looked into lasers a few years ago, but, the appraisal industry gives you the exterior heated square foot. So when you get me a drawing with rooms and it goes 12 on the inside and 15 on the inside, you're not giving your buyer that 6 inches of credit of that outside wall. So that's why we have to measure outside.
okay,
So, because that wall's normally 6 inches with, with your wood and then your brick facade or whatever your fascia is on it. And, so we give them that, or give y'all that. And so that's why when you go upstairs, you pull to a wall, you always have to add 6 inches on each exterior wall, but it's got to be an outside wall.
okay.
Does that make sense?
Unless it's one of the tilted
All right.
walls.
And we go to the head.
Okay. So when we're adding and taking away for those, the rooms, not rooms in particular, when we're doing the comparisons. Would you rather, I have a cheat sheet from an appraiser. I pull those when we're arguing with another agent. I always pull that appraiser sheet out. And I don't remember where I got it. I got it at some workshop in a brokerage. I pull from that and use that. Is that a tool that you would recommend? That if we have an appraiser friend that would.
I've just, I've told
generic.
anybody that if you have a question, call me. When there's an issue, we're not any, end all be all argument, but we typically try to follow what. Well, you try to follow what the market tells you, and that's my big thing. I've had actually realtors call me and say, I got a cheat sheet for this. You're supposed to add this much for a pool.
Yeah. Or
something like that. And so that's when I have to say, well, every appraiser has their opinion. That's why it says on the end of the report, my opinion. But the tighter it's gotten, you can't just make haphazard adjustments for whatever. And how I generate an adjustment for a pool, we'll just use that as an example, is
with something that's good.
If you've got a house here, your subject house we're looking at has a pool and an outdoor kitchen. All right, and you find a house in the neighborhood over here that doesn't have it, we'll argue, say it's sold for $500,000. And then you've got another house over here in the neighborhood that's just like it, that's got a pool and an outdoor kitchen, and it's sold for $575,000. It's pretty easy to tell you what that pool generates in the market, $75,000. And that a lot of times gets sellers fired up. I paid $200,000 for it. Great. This is what the market shows. It contributes to the market.
That's a good rate.
And that's, it doesn't always go well or sink in well, but that's just the way it is. You have to, it's called a contributory value. Another new thing that we're starting to see more and more prevalence with is solar panels. And idea that, I paid $70,000, put these solar panels on my house and all that is great. But again, we gotta do the same thing. We gotta try to find homes that had ones and homes that didn't and generate a market price. There's two ways to get value on solar panels. But the second way takes, a lot more heavy lifting from the homeowner. Because what I would want, to have is a full year's worth of your power bills prior to the solar panels. And then the time from when you got the solar panels to present. So you can see the difference. And then you can plug all that in and do, trend regression and show what the value that it contributes to your property. So it might be, you might have 75 in it, it might contribute $35,000 to it. And that's two different ways to put a value on those things.
That's a good idea. Another issue we have is giving value to basements. Finished, unfinished, walkouts, not walkouts. I've heard they're half the value. I've heard they're full value. They don't get credit. I've heard all kinds of
Oh, yeah, there's
square footage, not square footage.
All right, first off, we have to define what a basement is. So when you look at a house, if three sides of it, let's just say it's on a slope, and three sides of it are fully exposed to the sun, not half, but fully, then you can call that above grade. So that's the same as the upstairs. Once you start getting dirt down the sides and in the back, you just gotta walk outside, and that's the only side exposed, and that's considered a basement. We've got an area in our footprint that you've got your Lake Wiley. You're not Lake Wiley, but just the lake itself. A lot of people in the market see that as all one grade because that's where it's sold, and all of them are sold. So
And then the assessor has his idea.
what I typically try to do is look at how it's built. So let's just argue you've got a $2 million house sitting on the lake, sitting on a slope. But it's got 2 floors and they're both built to the same quality as, each floor. I'll be pretty close on my dollar-square foot adjustments. Sometimes, like I said, that if you've got enough houses like that selling, that you can show the lender that this is common for the area, you can call that 1 square footage. But it's again, that's all in the eyes of the beholder, the appraiser to decide. But you don't want to go into a house and have the above grade is, hardwood floors, crown molding and all that, and go down the basement and they got shag carpet and concrete block and try to say that's more than, just barely over, construction cost. And so that's what it boils down to. But
So matching grade as the upstairs.
typically the look of it's going to give you a lot of hint of what you need to think about as far as dollar per square foot on that.
In sunlight.
Yeah, the 3 sides, see fully exposed is the first thing to see. I mean, if you got a little old teeny window, and so that kind of, there's a few layers there. If you've got through, and I always look at every house through the eyes of the FHA because they're much critical. You know that they'll about the FHA with the doors. I mean, not the doors, the windows. A window, room to be. Ma'am?
You're talking about egress windows?
Ingress and egress, you gotta be able to get out of them, that's right. And so if you've got a little teeny window because the dirt comes down through you, that gives you a pretty good clue that half of that back is underground, and so it wouldn't be considered above grade. So.
Speaking of FHA, so there's a big, some people don't like to take VA loans and stuff. So I've had one that flipped from USDA because government shutdown. But then when we flipped it to, the lender was really good, she flipped it over to an FHA. So the appraisal had to be redone.
Right.
So can you give us difference from an FHA, VA, and a USDA appraisals? Well,
USDA and FHA are about identical. You just don't use the FHA verbiage. And to be truthful with you, I inspect every house based on the FHA guidelines because they're so strict.
Okay.
And there's a lot of things with the FHA that I don't agree with at all. I'll give you a good example. If your neighbor has a fence on the backside of your yard, y'all butt up to each other, and that paint's chipped, you gotta fix it if you don't get FHA loan.
So they're worse, well, I say worse, they are more strict than the VA.
Oh, God, yeah. VA's easy. That's a piece of cake.
Thank you for saying that. Because
We work-
most people
No,
say.
we work for the VA. The thing with the VA
And
is
the VA just had those changes
the
on.
VA looks after the veterans, period. And that's what they tell us. We did one, I remember this thing the rest of my life. We had a VA that we were doing for a handicapped veteran, and they were doing construction. The walkway had to be 36 inches wide for whatever reason, get his wheelchair up there, I guess. Dad went up there and measured that steps, and they were 35 3/4 inches. He told them to tear it off and rebuild it. That's how strict the VA is on stuff like that. But other than that, VA's a piece of cake. The FHA, the biggest thing with them right now seems to be paint chips. If you're outside scratching paint off a house, you gotta get every chip up out of that flower bed, or you're subject to getting a flag.
Okay.
It's ridiculous. But that's they all have their quirks, but the FHA is the strictest. And so that's why I tend to look at them. But FHA, you got to go under the house, go up in the attic, all the utilities working and all the appliances working. There for a while, the FHA got to where they wanted us on the roof and to say that the roof was installed right, and open the panel box and say it was installed right. And a lot of appraisers push back from that because we're not expert in that. So we're not going to say yes.
Right.
So that was 20 years ago. They've since changed that, but I see old David up there. Y'all get him in here.
So with the wells and the
Yeah, the wells.
septics and the being a certain amount of
You gotta
away
have
from the
that, right.
houses.
Mhm. Do you know the distances of the?
One's 50 and one's 100.
Let's see if I remember. The swell has to be 100 feet from the septic lines, and the septic lines can't be any closer than 50 feet to the property line. And so that's a biggie. You get a lot of banks sometimes will ask us about that. And some can be trifling, and I tend to just say, I'm not an expert in that. It was built per South Carolina DHEC code when it was installed, and so that's what I'm gonna hang my hat on that. Then they'll ask me to get them a plat with a drawing on it, and that's when you turn around and go, not my job.
Okay, but see, with them being switched, we were told, well, each one has a different, and the appraiser has to switch each appraisal for each loan, and so that was my big, and I was asking Billy, I said, we need to have an appraiser come in and then tell us each one, so our members will understand and know the difference, or
Okay,
we can be up.
with an FHA appraisal, we can only go inspect that after it's been given that case number, the 416 number. So if you've got one that you did USDA 2 weeks ago and y'all decide to go to FHA, you first have to get that case number. That's why we have to do a new one, because we have to inspect it after that day, and the valuation has to be after that day.
Okay.
Going forward. VA, and there's certain verbiage that you have with the FHA. It's you have to basically say that the property either will meet or meets the HUD handbook 4001 annual dollars reports written up per use map, and that you have to put in there, you have to physically write in that FHA/HUD is the intended user of the report. That's really the only real difference.
Okay, we were led to believe there was big differences, and that's why that makes sense now. And I couldn't get straight answers.
Well, I hope that's somewhat of an
Thank
answer.
you. Yeah, no, that really helped. Thank you. Do we have time to open it up to for questions from our other members?
Yes,
Yeah.
I did put it in the chat to ask if anybody had any questions, but if you have any questions right now, please feel free to come off mute and ask Jamie. We've got the experts here.
Expert.
And you all may have other questions than I did. I was trying to think of things that had happened to me. Or that other members had asked me.
I didn't see any in the chat. So the new changes, Jamie, that are being projected are supposed to go live in September.
September 1.
September 1. So just for everyone to be aware of that.
Yeah, hopefully that it won't slow us down too terribly. But David probably answered that too. He's probably thinking about that. These things could slow us down some with hopefully that won't affect the industry too much.
So before we started, you were mentioning that the new changes, it was gonna be a longer form, that it was gonna be.
Well, it's not a form anymore. It's just software. Yeah, that's yeah.
And that not all that FHA was the only one requiring it?
Fannie Mae.
Fannie Mae.
Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And they're of course, that's kind of the stick that stirs the coffee in the real estate industry. But that's kind of what my thinking is anybody that's not selling the loan to them might not require it. I don't know. That's just kind of, because you got people around here like I said, South States and your founders, some of those folks that keep a lot of their stuff in house. They might not need it. I don't know. And I'm just, we'll get told. Yeah, we'll get told by them what they want and just have to comply or just, that's the hard part is, you comply or die, basically.
So I have a question. If there's one thing you wish all realtors knew about their appraisal process, what would you tell them?
That we're fallible.
That you're not out to get us?
No. Well, it's kind of a tough question there. That we're an uninterested third party for a reason. And obviously, when you're in a real estate environment, you're interested because you're trying to sell the house. And when we tell you something you don't want to hear, we're not idiots. Because I've been told that a few times. And then most of it happened, back when we were just white hot selling real estate and they were having bidding wars and all this. And you'd get a contract for a house for $575,000 and there's 4 houses in the neighborhood selling $500,000. And I told the lady, I said, I sure hope you tell your client he's about to bring $75,000 to the closing. And she got furious at me. You can't make that work? No. Got 3 sales in there. That's what the bank wants to know the thing. Just because you're willing to pay 75 more than what it's worth, that's your decision. But we can't support that. So and then the problem with that entails it faces us is when that thing closes, it shows the market as 575 in there rather than what it really is at 500. So you gotta wait a whole year for that sale to come off the 1 year window or just not use it. So if you don't use it, then you get somebody call you, well, I didn't use this sale. Well, it's sold, it's a $500,000 house. It's sold in an argument, an auction.
Yes.
And that to me, again, not to impugn, but in real estate, I've seen a lot of changes how people sold houses. I had no clue about this going live. He put the house on the market on April 1, and we're going to leave it on the market till the 10th. And all the contracts we got, we're going to pile them up and see which one's best, except that one. My personal just doesn't sit with me. Because if I walked in there on April 2 and had a full price cash, you're going to make me wait 8 days to think about that. And that's just, I guess that's the difference of where real estate's gone versus where it used to be. There was, pretty much you dealt with people as they walked in, and that's where the time is of the essence always was paramount. But is that just the industry understood, or is that yes?
There's debates on it, yeah.
I didn't mean to poke the bear. I was just curious.
There's debates on it, yeah.
It happened to him. He was buying a house.
Yeah.
His little buddy's sitting right there somewhere, a king. Yeah, sold Chip's house for him, and we went to buy a house. And I was telling Kim, I said, you know, we looked at it Sunday, we wanted to make an offer. I said, let's go to your office right now, let's get it done, let's get it done, let's get it done. And then it's like, oh, well, we're taking offers till Thursday. I said, well, man, where's this come from? But again, you know, I'm not in the industry to practice. I just was the actual buyer at that point.
Yeah.
I was a buyer.
And yeah, I'm with you on that.
I
So
know somebody's gotta have a question.
I know, you guys, cause some of you have called me and asked some of these pressure questions. So anyone?
Well, if everybody's listening. 803-328-6251. That's my office. 803-242-2712 is my cell phone. I am an open book. Anytime you want to call me and ask me a question, I'll be glad to take it.
We're open for business Monday through Friday.
That's good.
We can wrap up.
Yeah, if you're, and I did not, you gave us your number. If you will give us all the information, Jamie, name of your company and everything. I did not say that at the beginning, so.
Basic Real Estate Services. And if you want to send me an email, it's jamie.bowman@basicrealestate.net. And we're 3 blocks up the road, 1162 Ebenezer.
Yeah, because this is Real Estate Road here on Ebenezer.
That's right. We're right over there, just about across from South State Bank.
Well, Jamie, thank you so much for coming in and answering the questions, because these are all that I've had. You and I have worked together. You actually appraised my house when I moved here in 21, and you did a good job on the appraisal on the house that I sold on Falling Leaf. So thank you for that. When Billy said that she had lined up an appraiser, I was like, I hope it's Jamie, and it was. So thank you guys for coming. Thank you guys for attending. I hope your questions were answered. If you have any, last chance. Any questions, anyone? So thank you guys for taking time out of your day. Billy did record it.
I will send an email out after the meeting for
Okay.
Carol.
So thank you guys, and she is recording, and so this will be up, and Billy is putting those into an email, you said, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Jamie, and I look forward to working with you soon, and hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Everybody remember the fallen this weekend.
Thank you.
It's not just a vacation.
Yes.
Y'all military folks, you all understand what I mean by that. Right?
Yes. Yeah. I'm thankful my husband came home every time.
Yeah, I guarantee you.